Yeah, you don't. Okay, well, at least you're honest. Yeah. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayamutapad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Ashtotar Data Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Jai Jayamutapad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Ashtotar Data Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Jai Anantapurti Vaishnava Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Horrible. So give me 1 second here. What is that? It's getting warmer. Oh, is that what's going on? Oh, oh, I forgot. I put the air conditioning in now. Hare Krishna. All right, just give me a second. So if this marker is correct, and it looks like it is, text 35, yes, text 35 at the top of 453 in most of your books, 10:35. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, 453. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh boy. On this 23rd day of January 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 10th chapter, the opulence of the Absolute. Text number 35 at the top of page 453. Brihat Sama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham
Masanam Margashirsho Aham Ritunam Kusumakaraha Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Prabhu, you want to try? Haribo. Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Bhakta Ross. Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Kusumakaraha. Antonella. Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Yes? Brihatsama Tata Samnam Gayatri Chandasamaham Masanam Margashirshoham Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Anyone online? Okay.
Brihatsama Tata Samnam
Brihatsama Tata Samnam
Gayatri Chandasamaham
Gayatri Chandasamaham
Masanam Margashirshoham
Masanam Margashirshoham
Ritunam Kusumakaraha.
Ritunam Kusumakaraha. Brihatsama, the Brihatsama. Tata, also Samnam of the Samaveda songs. Gayatri, the Gayatri hymns. Chandasam, of all poetry. Aham, I am. Masanam, of months. Margashirshaha, the month of November, December. Aham, I am. Ritunam, of all seasons. Kusuma akaraha, spring. Translation. Krishna says, of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihatsama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. Purport. It has already been explained by the Lord that amongst all the Vedas, he is the Samaveda. The Samaveda is rich with beautiful songs played by the various demigods. One of these songs is the Brihatsama, which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules that regulate poetry. Rhyme and meter are not written whimsically, as in much modern poetry. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gayatri Mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified Brahmins, is the most prominent. The Gayatri Mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Gayatri Mantra is especially meant for God realization, it represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person, the qualities of goodness according to the laws of material nature, in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra. The Gayatri Mantra is very important in Vedic civilization and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman. Brahma is its initiator, and it is passed down from him in disciplic succession. The month of November-December is considered the best of all months because in India, grains are collected from the fields at this time, and the people become very happy. Of course, spring is a season universally liked because it is neither too hot nor too cold, and the flowers and trees blossom and flourish. In spring, there are also many ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes. Therefore, this is considered to be the most joyful of all seasons, and it is the representative of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Om Jnanatimurandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Well, since Srila Prabhupada talked about the poetry of the Sanskrit language and Samaveda and so forth, I think that's a cue for me to share a few Sanskrit poems and my English equivalents. In a beautiful book called the Krishna Karnamrita, which is embodies some of the most wonderful verses. I remember I had an experience back in 1977, shortly after Prabhupada disappeared. I went to Mayapur with the garland and other flowers Prabhupada was wearing to initiate the Pushpa Samadhi. And I went to, I was also on assignment. I was a BTG editor at that time, and so we had heard some news that Srila Prabhupada's godbrother, Sridhar Swami, had proof that Prabhupada was a Shaktavesha avatar. Now that's a worthy news story. So being just like across the river in Mayapur, I went to visit him. And who opened the gate but Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji, Prabhupada's beloved godbrother. And at that time, and I still am, very kind of, proud, I asked Maharaj, would you like to hear a nice verse? I was asking everybody that at the time. And he said, yes. And so I chanted one of the ones I had memorized from the Krishna Karnamrita, and he started laughing. He was very prone to laughing. He was very joyful. And he laughed and he said, because he would call Prabhupada Swami Maharaj. There's a reason for that I won't get into, but some of his He said, oh, just see what Swami Maharaj has done. He's had even the Mlechas in Yavanas chanting Sanskrit verses like this. But he told me that I should memorize them all, which unfortunately I haven't done yet, but I should do it. Anyway, near the end of this Krishna Karnamrita, there's a beautiful verse. And the Sanskrit goes like this, and I think you'll be able to hear the euphony. Somebody's going to come through that door now. Maybe not. They're just singing outside. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Tribhavana Mangala Divyanama Deha. Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shavana Mano Nayanama Tavatara. O glory, 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 Lord, O glory unto Thee, who with Thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. O glory, glory, glory unto Thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Natalie. So, and Sanskrit is an incredible language in that it's very suitable for wonderful metric constructions, and also some of the greatest poets. Oh, don't put it on the ground. She's got one already. Oh, I wish she had, yeah. They also do rhyme. I'll give you a little sample. This is Rupa Goswami's Leela Chanda, which is a wonderful summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And there's a little part there where he's describing the little baby Leela where he kicks over the cart. Remember that? And the next pastime is Trinavarta, and pastimes like that. So I'll give you just a sample of some of the verses that describe that, and you'll hear the rhyme and you'll hear the rhythm. Altan nikamahasankulitambaka shakadara shayana lambaka kuchadasa chishna vidichata rodana chanchala patakata shakadabinodana vismita pashabasu durga macheta katana nijay hita shavaka vechata kata the janaki janaka katantaka mantaka dhanani sudakata shantaka. And goes on like that. One of my favorite verses of all time comes in this. It says, I'll give you the translation too. Navishashuli la langitahayana garga vishkrita nama rasayana ringanamanda nandana ketana mananimatapata gokala chetana. So what this says that Navishashu Leela, Shishu is a little baby crawling, the Shishu. So after his Navashishu Leela, which included killing the cart demon and killing Trinavarta as a little baby, getting drawn up into the sky, you can imagine Mother Yashoda, he's just like, a couple of months old, maybe 6 months. And she put him, suddenly he became very heavy. She couldn't carry him anymore, so she put him down in the courtyard, and here comes the tornado demon, who no one could see because they're whipping up all kinds of debris and dust in Vrindavan, and takes Krishna up into the sky. And Mother Yashoda couldn't find her baby, and she just fell down, fainted. She was crying, and all of the friends were crying, "Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna?" So up in the sky, this Trinavarti thought, well, this was an easy job. But suddenly Krishna became holding onto his neck, couldn't get him off, and he became super heavy again. As heavy as the earth, Boom, he came crashing down, broke the body of Trinavarta. And finally, Mother Yashoda and the elder Gopa, they see Krishna, playing on the body of the demon. He was unhurt. And they said, by some miracle, Lord Hari has returned our side. So they had a whole ceremony in which they had the Brahmins chant mantras, may this demigod protect your ears, may this demigod protect your feet, may this, like a whole ceremony like that. So that's part of this. So after all of this Shishu Leela, Navashishu Leela, Langitahayana, 1 year had passed of this Navashishu Leela. Garga Vishkata Nama Rasayana, Garga Muni came, if and gave him a name-giving ceremony, and revealed in kind of a hidden way that this was as good as Narayan. You know what I mean? This is as good as Narayan. So Navashalila Garga Nama, and then this is a class. This line just sticks in my mind. Ringana Mandita Nandana Ketana. With his crawling, he decorated the courtyards of Vrindavan. Ringana Mandita Nanda Niketana. Niketana is the courtyard. Ringana Mandita Nanda Niketana. Monina Matapata, with his sweetness, his beauty, his personality. Tarpata Goka the Chaitanya. He delighted all the consciousness of everyone in Vrindavan. Ringana Mandita Nanda Niketana. Monina Matapata Goka the Chaitanya. So just a taste. I don't know the Samaveda, but I know some of these verses by Rupa Goswami, and they're just wonderful. They just fill the mind with thoughts of Krishna in a very delightful way, and they never get old. They're just like the Hare Krishna mantra, ever fresh, and just like Krishna. So, now the Gayatri, of course, is Prabhupada gave Gayatri mantra to his Brahman initiated devotees, and the Gayatri mantra is there at the beginning, but then there's also other mantras that you chant to the spiritual master, to Lord Chaitanya, to Krishna. And there's the Kama Gayatri at the end. There's various varieties of it. So that's very important. It's chanted by the duly. Now what's also very interesting is that the Bhagavatam evokes the Gayatri mantra. This is one of the definitions that makes the Bhagavatam the Bhagavatam. that it has echoes of the Gayatri mantra in it, especially in the first verse. The word dhimahi at the very end of the first verse of the Bhagavatam is there in the Gayatri also. So there's a connection there. And Bhagavatam also is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and that was also echoed in the first verse. The very first words are the second sutra of the Brahma Sutra. It begins with, it's very easy to remember these if you try a little bit. The first one is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now then, having come to the human form of life, you should inquire into the absolute truth. In other words, don't waste your time. It's a very great gift, and then the answer is there in the second sutra. Does anyone remember what it is? Janma jasya yataha. Those are the first words of the Bhagavatam. Janma jasya yatam vayada tadatash. That's the first verse. So it answers, okay, Janma jasya yataha. Inquire into Brahman, which is the source of everything. That's the basic definition. Janma adi. Source of everything, maintains everything, and destroys everything at the end, but remains aloof. And Krishna declares himself, we just had those verses, Aham sarvasya prabhavo. I am the source of everything, Krishna is saying. And then Arjuna, he says, yes, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. He accepts them. These are very important exchanges. So, that's a connection there with the Srimad Bhagavatam. And here, the Samavedas is somewhere else. Oh, it was mentioned here how he's already said the rich and beautiful songs. Already been said that the Lord that explained that amongst all the Vedas, he's the Samaveda. And somewhere it says, I remember reading, this is fascinating, that when Garuda flies, his wings make the sound of the songs of the Samaveda. So that's an interesting fact you never knew before, right, Natalie? There he is. Haribol Garuda. By the way, you should all know that it was Kanchan Bala who designed this Garuda, and then she sent the design and everything and the picture to India, and a devotee carved it there. But she's very, very exquisite. Yeah, she did a wonderful job. She's an artist. If you go to her home, I was visiting when Madhusudan was sick. She paintings everywhere on the wall she's done over the years. Very nice. Okay, any other discussion on this verse? Let us. Oh, the mic, right there. Can you reach up, Natalie? Up. You can stand up. Let her do it. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. So just a quick question on the Gayatri Mantra. I see on YouTube there's a lot of famous singers and all kinds of people who are singing in every different forms this Gayatri Mantra. It's kind of like fashionable now. Is that just they can do it, nothing matters, or actually could be negative, or could be, I mean, what is the consequence of chanting a mantra if you're not like initiate, like
I don't remember any specific reaction for that, but it's definitely not bona fide. It's it's supposed to be very confidential, the Gayatri Mantra. But like everything else, in Kali Yuga, we can make a buck on it, let's.
That's the first mantra I learned when I was born.
That was the first mantra? Well, that's why you're sitting here. Purified from birth.
Indian families?
Yeah.
Gayatri mantra.
Yeah.
In where I grew up, Indian family, the Gayatri mantra was the first mantra. Even when you go to kindergarten, before you go to your class, in the assembly, you do the national anthem, you do the Gayatri mantra. That's when you start your school.
Well, I guess it's not a secret mantra anymore, is it? All right, let us go on. Dyutam chalayatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham jayosmi vivasayosmi sattvam sattvamatamaham sattvavatam. I am also the gambling of cheats, and of the splendid I am the splendor. I am victory, I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. Purport. There are many kinds of cheaters all over the universe. Of all cheating processes, gambling stands supreme and therefore represents Krishna. As the Supreme, Krishna can be more deceitful than any mere man. The unfortunate commentator who wants to cheat Krishna and the public by saying that there is something greater than Krishna is cheated by Krishna, and the commentator cannot understand Krishna after any length of time. Now, I think this sentence, I don't know, you have that? Yeah, because this was a revision, a fairly recent revision, that sentence had been omitted somehow. If Krishna chooses to deceive a person, no one can surpass him in his deceit. His greatness is not simply one-sided, it is all-sided. Among the victorious, he is victory. He is the splendor of the splendid. Among the enterprising and industrious, he is the most enterprising, the most industrious. Among adventurers, he is the most adventurous, and among the strong, he is the strongest. When Krishna was present on earth, no one could surpass him in strength. Even in his childhood, he lifted Govardhan Hill. No one can surpass him in cheating, no one can surpass him in splendor, no one can surpass him in victory, no one can surpass him in enterprise, and no one can surpass him in strength. Now, interesting thing about this word, where is it? No, pages. Vyavasaya. Enterprise. Now, I looked that up, and the way the adventure part of it, what I looked up is that it's more or less adventure, not the adventure, which means enterprise. You know, when you have a venture, business venture, right? So, but the ad was added, and so it's become part of the Bhagavad Gita. And certainly, you know, why not? I am adventure, and I am the strength of the strong. What is it?
I said a similar word.
Yeah, Vyavasaya in Hindi means business.
Business.
It could be any business. Like
Yeah, any venture, business venture.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Job or occupation.
Oh, okay.
It could be a job.
Yeah, all right. So the gambling of cheats, that may be a little shocking. Isn't that negative? But you can see that in one sense, this whole, you know, phenomenon of Maya is really, it's like the original and the ISKCON, you know, is convincing us who have turned away from Krishna that we can be happy separately, that if we work hard and do this, we'll gain this, and be. All the while, we're in this temporary human body, and no matter how hard we try and how rich we get and influential and beautiful and whatever, it's all simply temporary. Remember, we just had Mrityu Sarvaharas as death, I take it all away. So that potency of Maya to fool the conditioned souls, to bewilder us, is a very evidence of Krishna's great power. In a sense, that's cheating. But he's only cheating us because, as Prabhupada said, we want to be cheated. We want to be able to forget Krishna so that we can enjoy Maya. But the result of that is that yes, we can enjoy for a little bit sometimes if we, you know, but then there's a huge downside, which is that at a certain point you can't enjoy anymore. At a certain point you have to leave the body, the old age, the death, the rebirth, losing the human form. It's a very bad investment, you know, which is what gambling is. It's like they have these lottery. I remember when the lottery started. I mean, I'm way back in the 60s when I was a gambler. Yeah. I was into horse racing when I was 18, 19. I dropped out of college, and I had this dinky little job. I was living at home, and I was making all of $1.35 an hour. And if I really put in my time and I became a senior member of this factory I was working in, I could come up to $1.50 an hour. You know, this was. So I had my little paycheck, you know, and I would go to the gambling track, and. There's a certain excitement there, you know. Oh, you know, maybe I can make money, you know. I was luckily I was very bad at it. And I remember two experiences about, you know. There was one guy who told me, "Hey, I know who's going to win this next race. I know it's fixed, and I know who's going to win the next race. You know, you just bet on this horse and you win. You know, and so give me the money, and I'll place the bet. You know." So I did, and he didn't win, and he didn't lose anything. You know, he didn't really put any money on. He put my money on. That's okay. I've been cheated. You know, I was cheated. And then there was this experience. I'll never forget this. Later on, it made so much sense. It was almost a personification, because the gambling is kind of really the mode of ignorance, you know. And before each race, there's 8 races. There's kind of a rush toward the gates to place your bet, you know. So all these lines are moving. So there was this one guy who was standing. He wasn't going anywhere. He was just standing there, and he looked like a personification of some of these homeless people. He had, you know, he was filthy. He smelled. He looked like he was a little crazy. How did well done? You want a book? Yeah, okay. And so even then, before I knew anything about modes of nature and anything, I thought, this guy is like the personification of the consciousness of this gambling business, you know. In other words, he's just showing us how degraded it is. People were just making a wide berth, you know, and going to the gate, you know. But he was personifying how degraded the whole operation was. Anyway, I was blessed because at one point I lost my whole paycheck, and I said, "That's it." And that was the end. That was my last time gambling. And so sometimes I used to go take a walk around the block, you know, while chanting japa. And if you know, on the corner there of Hornblende and Cass, there's a little shop, and there's always the lottery ticket in the window, you know. And sometimes you see, oh wow, 10 million, 50 million. Now they have tickets that go over $1 billion. Somebody won last, you know. And I'm always thinking as I'm chanting, you know, I said, we've already won the lottery, you know. We're human beings. That gives you the ticket, but in order to cash the ticket, you have to chant Hare Krishna. Otherwise, you're going to lose that human form of life. And so it's so tragic, really, that people place their faith in that. And you can see it's just as addictive as a drug. They're just as addictive. We had one fellow here, I'm not going to name names, you know, who was totally into it. He couldn't give it up. He was a guest, not living in the temple. But so Krishna is that power that. I'm also the gambling of cheats. So gambling is itself a cheating process. And Krishna, he's the most powerful of everything. And where do the demons get their power? They also get it from Krishna, but it's minuscule compared to Krishna's power, you know. So what's wonderful is that if we surrender to Krishna, you know, we have the most powerful, beautiful, knowledgeable person on our side. He's just a hope. He comes here to invite us to speak the Bhagavad Gita and come as Lord Chaitanya, to reach out to us, to find some receptive souls who will finally, after all these millions of births of turning from Krishna, will turn back to Krishna by the influence of the pure devotees, like that. And so we can stop this enterprise, which is really self-defeating. You know, we've just gotten ourselves into a big pickle here. That, you know, but this is the way to get out, is by learning and reforming and using our senses for service rather than to try to gratify them, which is a very bad bet. Anyway. So, if there's no more comments, let's go on. Rishinam Vasudevosmi Pandavanam Dhananjaya Muninam Apyaham Vyasa Kabinam Ushana Kabihi. Of the descendants of Vrishni, I am Vasudev, and of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyas, and among great thinkers, I am Ushana. Purport. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Baladev is Krishna's immediate expansion. Both Lord Krishna and Baladev appear as sons of Vasudev, so both of them may be called Basudev. From another point of view, because Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, all the forms of Krishna that appear elsewhere are his expansions. Vasudeva is Krishna's immediate expansion. So Vasudeva is not different from Krishna. It is to be understood that the Vasudeva referred to in this verse of the Bhagavad Gita is Baladev, or Balaram, because he is the original source of all incarnations, and thus he is the sole source of Vasudeva. The immediate expansions of the Lord are called Svangsha, personal expansions, and there are also expansions called Vibhinnangsha, separated expansions. Amongst the sons of Pandu, Arjuna is famous as Dhananjaya. He is the best of men and therefore represents Krishna. Among the Munis, or learned men conversant in Vedic knowledge, Vyas is the greatest because he explained the Vedic knowledge in many different ways for the understanding of the common mass of people in this age of Kali. And Vyas is also known as an incarnation of Krishna. Therefore, Vyas also represents Krishna. Kavis are those who are capable of thinking thoroughly on any subject matter. Among the Kavis, Ushana Shukracharya was the spiritual master of the demons. He was an extremely intelligent and far-seeing politician. Thus, Shukracharya is another representative of the opulence of Krishna. So, yeah. So there's a surprise in here that, Ushana, well, Shukracharya kind of got some short shrift. Shukracharya was the guru of Bali Maharaj. And when Bali Maharaj was performing this great sacrifice, actually Aditi had prayed that an incarnation would come to help her sons get back the heavenly kingdom. Bali was such a powerful warrior that he was able to lead the army of demons, and they took over the heavenly planets. So the demigods were hiding here and there. So Krishna came as Vamanadev, a diminutive Brahman. I'm not going to use the word dwarf. Doesn't work in American English. Anyway, so then he walked, very beautiful. There's one passage where all the different figures are giving him gifts. This little Brahman, and you got the water pot, and you got the... Did you read that? Have you read that? And he becomes very exquisite, very striking. And he walks toward the sacrifice. As everyone is seeing, he's kind of effulgent, And so Bali, he's after all the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, and he becomes a Mahajan here. So he was taking the role of a demon, but he wasn't really a demon. And so he was very eager to give this brahmachari some alms. Brahmacharis can beg, so he's got his water pot and he's begging. So, whatever you like, I can give you a planet because he just conquered the universe, And Shukracharya was saying, no, don't offer him anything. It's Vishnu. He'll take everything. And Shukracharya was wondering, was thinking, if he gives him everything, then where my maintenance going to come from? Then he won't have anything. So Bali, at that point, he rejected Shukracharya. He said, you were telling me to honor the Brahmins and give charity, and especially if they're Vishnu. I don't know how it's worked with the demons, but there it is. And now you're telling me not, so I reject you, which is a big deal to reject your Gurudev. So then Vamana said, okay, if you want to give me something, give me 3 steps of land. And Prabhupada would point out his sole, S-O-L-E, his foot sole was very small, so he couldn't really take some very big steps, So Bali said, why 3 steps of land? That's nothing. Come on, I'll give you a whole planet. So Vamana was preaching, if a Brahmin can't be satisfied with a very meager offering, then he's not really a Brahmin, So, all right, 3 steps of land, if that's all you want. Om, I give it to you, So as soon as the gift was official, he started expanding. And with his first step, he covered the whole world. With his next step, he covered the rest of the universe and poked a hole in the covering of the universe, and the little causal ocean drops drip through. and along with the dust, washed his feet. So now it's sanctified with the dust of Vishnu, and became the Ganges River, which made its way down from the heavenly planets down to earth. There's a whole chapter on that in the 5th canto. So then Vamanadev said, well, you said 3 steps. Where am I going to put my 3rd step? I've already covered the whole universe. So what did Bali say? Put it on my head. In other words, he then surrendered himself there. And in this way, he became the exemplar of Atmanivedanam, the 9th practice process. And so he was actually arrested. He was tied up with the ropes of Varuna, and disrespected like that. But then in the ultimate issue, Vamanadev awarded him his own planet, Sutala, I think it was, a subterranean heavenly planet. And he offered to be his doorman. Vamanadev is the eternal doorman of Bali, so it's quite remarkable. And Shukracharya had something to do with that, so Krishna identifies. Now Vyas, of course, is sometimes with Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, which indicates he's an expansion of Krishna's Shaktivesh or whatever. So that's suitable. And I'm sure Arjuna is encouraged that of all the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. And the whole thing of Vasudev, how that's working, I'm not sure. It's supposed to be Baladev. So he's there also. All right, we're almost at the point, at the end of the chapter. Let's see if we can proceed here. Now, there's a bunch, we'll finish it maybe tomorrow. Dando damayatam Nitirasmin jigishatam Maunam chayavasmi guyanam Gyanam gyanabatamaham. Among all means of suppressing lawlessness, I am punishment. And of those who seek victory, I am morality. Of secret things, I am silence. And of the wise, I am wisdom. Purport. There are many suppressing agents, of which the most important of those are those that cut down miscreants. When miscreants are punished, the agency of chastisement represents Krishna. Among those who are trying to be victorious in some field of activity, the most victorious element is morality. Among the confidential activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating, silence is most important, because by silence one can make progress very quickly. The wise man is he who can discriminate between matter and spirit, between God's superior and inferior natures. Such knowledge is Krishna himself. So this silence, one can make progress in hearing, thinking, and meditating. I read one article once about sound pollution in New York City. Even in the most expensive apartments, up on the 50th floor of some building. But there's all this street noise coming in. What? Isn't it? Jackhammers and all that. It's such an opulence to have quiet. That's why the sound canceling headphones are really a big item. I use them quite often in the morning. Dr. Ross, you can see how much advancement he's making, all because of his sound canceling headphones. But really, I once read, I can't give you a reference for this, but that Sanatana Goswami, Sanatana Goswami in Vrindavan, when he was in Vrindavan, he dug or had dug a 20-foot hole in the ground to do his japa. Even in Vrindavan, when the sounds are the peacocks cooing and the monkeys jabbering, and but in order to get that silence so that he could be absorbed in the holy name, he did that. So it's interesting. It's really a precious thing. That's one of the reasons why the early hours are so important, because there's not so much hurly-burly going on, especially in a city like this,
Those kinds of headphones, though, because you can hear yourself.
You can inside. I hear.
Well, you can. You're supposed to be able to hear yourself when you chant japa.
Well, I'm hearing. You can hear.
I can hear it when I read them. I can hear myself.
Oh. Well, you're built differently. Okay. Yat chapi sarvabhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna natad asti vina yat syam Maya bhutam characharam. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existences. Nothing, moving or non-moving, can exist without me. Purport, everything has a cause, and that cause or seed of manifestation is Krishna. Without Krishna's potency, nothing can exist, either moving or non-moving. Therefore, he is called omnipotent. Whatever existence is not founded on the energy of Krishna is called Maya, that which is not. And I think we made a revision. I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll look that one up. Because whatever existence is not founded on the energy of Krishna, but Krishna is, everything is Krishna's energy. So where is that? Something. Maya is also his energy.
But I couldn't understand the English.
I couldn't understand it either. That's why I think we revised it. I'll let you know tomorrow. This is, let me look at the edition.
Well, I think that this means that which is not Krishna. That which is not Krishna is Maya.
Maybe that's the resolution.
Oh, okay, whatever existence is not founded on the energy of
No.
That part doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make that. That's the part I think we've fixed.
need to edit this.
Oh boy. Well, this is 2021 printing, and maybe the last printing. We'll figure it out. Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa esha tu deshatak prokto vibhute vistaromaya. Notice that the word vibhuti appears twice in this verse, and this is the Vibhuti Yoga chapter about these opulences. Almighty conqueror of enemies, there is no end to my divine manifestations. What I have spoken to you is but a mere indication of my infinite opulences. Purport. As stated in the Vedic literature, although the opulences and energies of the Supreme are understood in various ways, there is no limit to such opulences. Therefore, not all the opulences and energies can be explained. Simply a few examples are being described to Arjuna to pacify his inquisitiveness. Now, this is from one of the most famous verses in the chapter, aside from those famous four in Arjuna. Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam shrimad urjitameva va tattadeva apakachatvam mamate jonksha sambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. Purport. Any glorious or beautiful existence should be understood to be but a fragmental manifestation of Krishna's opulence, whether it be in the spiritual or material world. Anything extraordinarily opulent should be considered to represent Krishna's opulence. So one of the whole points of this chapter is that we should see the things in this world. There's different categories of bodies of water on the ocean, you know. So he's like the best or the most powerful, most glorious of every category. But so those things, when we see some extraordinary power or beauty, we should think, oh, this is Krishna's manifestation. This is part of the whole theme here in the Bhagavad Gita. We began in chapter 7 of Raso Homo Sukantaya. You taste some water, oh, I'm the taste of water. I'm light of the sun or the moon. I'm the strength of the strong, like that. So where do you not contact those things? Light of the sun and the moon, every day practically. We just have new moon as an exception. But so all of these things in our environment can help us remember Krishna, if we remember Bhagavad Gita. And if we want to remember Krishna, why did we forget Krishna? Because we wanted to separate Krishna's energy from Krishna and try to dominate it. That's the basic principle why we're here. So this is a way of reconnecting the energy of Krishna, which is reflected and manifested in so many impressive ways, back to Krishna so we can remember him again. The whole point of the Bhagavad Gita and the process that we're going is to increase and deepen our remembrance of Krishna at every moment. In all parts of our life. We're not always going to be in the temple, we're going to be outside and doing our work and so forth, but there are so many manifestations of Krishna's energy we can see throughout if we want to be Krishna conscious and remember. The very intelligence that we use to perform any task, whether it's drive a car, do our work or whatever, that's Krishna's. So if we're really Krishna conscious, we can just by living, we can remember him. So this verse sums it up. I remember there was an incident when I was living in New Dwarka. This was a real striking thing. When I arrived there, those who have been up there, you know, there's this Venice Boulevard, and then there's Watsek Avenue that comes off it, right? Well, Venice Boulevard had been 2 lanes and 2 lanes, and they were widening the road. It was a major construction project the whole first year I was there. So in the course of that, widening the Hare Krishna, welcome. Okay. Who was sitting there? I think you can sit there. Oh, Ross. Okay. So, believe it or not, if you're sitting in, you know, in the temple there, there's like some hills behind the temple that goes up, and in those hills, there's actually oil wells. And we learned after this incident that there was a refinery up there, and they had a whole line that was sending gasoline, refined gasoline, down to the port to ship out there. And it was, no one knew it was there. But in the course of digging up, the guys who were digging up the road didn't know it either. And they hit this line, and gasoline started spewing out under pressure, and it was a huge explosion. The guy who was running that bulldozer was killed. And there were devotees living all over, you know. And suddenly there's this huge fireball in the middle of Venice Boulevard. And the devotees didn't know what to do, you know. So we have to move the deities. And we had all these beautiful garments that had been sewn for the deities for years, you know. So there was this tremendous effort to get all those garments into the bus. We had our own little school bus that we would go on Harinam with. There were so many devotees there, you know, 40, 50 at a time. So that was all loaded with all these clothes and all the books from the book room, and the deities were moved, they were taken out. And then we heard that the gasoline was flowing down into the sewers, and the whole block might explode, you know. Said, oh my God, you know, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. And so, fortunately, eventually the fire, you know, and it was a tremendous, it was under pressure, so it was this fireball, you know, and this in the middle of Watsek Avenue, it couldn't be 50, 60, 80 feet high. And people would gather and they were looking, you know. So after it was all over, you know, and no devotees were hurt miraculously, even though they were living all over the place. And it was put out, and we brought the books back, we brought the clothes back, and the deities back, and everything. And so one of the classes that were given was how devotees see this. And it was a combination of this chapter, seeing the power and glory of the Lord, and the next chapter, which is the real universal form, when even Arjuna becomes very scared, you know, very powerful. But this is how we see it. I remember in this regard, I think I mentioned this, the next chapter, there's that line, Kalosmi loka chaikrat pravido. So Robert Oppenheimer, who was an aficionado of the Gita, he, when that first atom bomb came, he uttered at least that line. He knew about Kalosmi loka chaikrat, that of time I am the destroyer of everything, like that. So this is how we can begin to see Krishna everywhere. And we run out of time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Sorry about that. Got carried away. Remembering that experience. Oh, Krishna.